but you have to use a microphone. Either, you got it, okay, good.
And we are,
Live.
yes, we are.
So can I just make a suggestion? We just vote each one. If they have a question for us, we'll stop and talk about it. Okay. You guys are gonna vote too, right?
We voted on everything except the groundwater overlay.
Okay, so
already.
when we get to the articles, if you could just tell us your vote first, and then we'll vote.
Okay, let's discuss Article 2. See if the town will vote to transfer $1471.78 from available funds to pay outstanding bills from prior year's expenditures.
We were 6-0-0 in favor.
Mr. Chairman, I would vote, I'd make a motion that the selectmen would
Approve.
vote in favor of
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $114,000 to reduce the current year tax rate.
We were 5-0-0 in favor with the provision that $500,000 also be added to the free cash, or from free cash to school stabilization.
Well, they're two separate votes, so it's on the warrant.
There's a new article.
Yeah, I know, but that was the conditions of our vote. So it's
Okay.
5-0-0 in favor.
Okay. I move to approve Article 3.
Second.
On the 5,000 free cash, he said that Article
3 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $114,000 to reduce the current year's tax rate. And the FinCom said they voted 5-0-0 in favor of doing that, with the caveat that we put $500,000 into the school stabilization account from free cash.
And then my response was, they're two separate articles, so they're two separate votes.
Yep.
But they're both there.
I mean, that's your caveat, but you know that one could go and one couldn't.
Just also is that they're two separate quantums of votes, because to put it, no, not anymore. That's right. We don't have to put, and we don't need a 2/3 to put it in
Not to
anymore.
put it in, only to take it out.
Yeah, well, they just changed it, so.
Yep.
Article 4.
No, we didn't vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And your vote was 5-0-0.
Article 4?
Yeah.
5-0-0 in favor.
I move to approve Article 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 That's the 150.
Article 5, the free cash, that's the one for the stabilization.
Yep. We were 5-0-0 in favor.
I move to approve Article 5.
Second.
All,
Microphone.
I was absent from that vote, and I would like to bring those up for discussion again tonight if it's appropriate, with the joint meeting.
Go ahead.
okay. So we're open for discussion.
What? No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I would like that both, it's two articles I'm speaking of. I would like that both of them, the stabilization fund for an amount and the free cash for an amount, both said 500,000 not to exceed, and put it that way instead of putting an absolute number. We just got data today from your board regarding the stabilization and the dynamics of it over the next 6 or 7 years. This, by stabilization, we're talking about school stabilization. Is that correct? Yes.
That's correct, yes.
And free cash. And I think that there is so much information up in the air. While the numbers all added up and matched, I spent some time, and I have some serious questions regarding the application of that.
Well, I think the 500,000 is, I mean, by definition, you can lower the amount. So that's.
Mr. Chairman, can I?
Yes, but, I'll answer his question, yes, but I said free cash also be said as 500,000. You can't, I don't believe you can increase an article amount at town meeting. I believe but you can decrease one, and that's I would like for proceed.
I'm not understanding you.
We're confused, John.
Are you talking about Which article are you talking about? Can you show him so he can say which article?
Article 3,
I don't know.
Article 3, I would like the number to say $500,000, not 100 and some odd thousand, whichever, on the vote I missed.
I'm listening, but I'm not.
And you move whatever you want to when you get there. But whether you want to put that balance between the 500 and 100, or maybe you might, there's a lot of stuff in the air yet on the cost and how you diminish, and the purposes of the stabilization fund. And after going through the data sheet that was provided to the FinCom at least today, there are serious questions in my mind about the application and the premise.
Can I stop
Can
you
we,
there?
can we find out what that information is?
I don't know
Yeah,
what you
we
got.
don't have that.
That, no.
Oh.
No, I did that as an individual. That's not the board. And that's a hypothetical scenario.
Thank you. So I did not, you may have wanted, so I don't read emails, I just go to the widget thing.
Okay, that has nothing to do with the Board of Selectmen at this point.
All right.
I think
Okay,
Joe-
I got it. So now I still stand on my point that I would like the free cash to be eligible in the article terminology to be able to receive
You're
500,000.
talking about reducing the tax rate, that article?
I'm not presuming anything. I don't know how much would be moved. I'm talking about the article. And what you put in, as maybe Mike can tell you what, maybe he sees what I'm thinking. You could put 10 million in there, but you can only move what you can do.
So what we are recommending is to have $500,000 to go into that. So we want that.
For the school stabilization.
But you want the saying up to 500,000.
No, I just, this is for clarification purposes only. I believe what John is saying is that he is fine with the amount that is in the school stabilization amount, but I think he wants the Article 3 language to be changed to read also up to $500,000 to buy
reduce
down
the
the
tax
tax
rate.
rate. Again, that's for clarification purposes only. Is that accurate, John?
That's correct. And I'm sorry if I was inarticulate on that.
Okay, but so what are the benefits? What are the benefits? Why?
Why?
I mean, why?
Why? There are, the first one is I'm not satisfied, and nobody yet has formally, in a formal manner, showed me how the stabilization fund for the school system, when the debt comes due to the town, is going to be re-entered into the financial bloodstream of the town, and over what period of time, and at what amount, and with what criteria, whether you're going to protect the tax rate by 10%, 5%. I see no numbers from anybody. I've done mine at home, and other people on the finance committee may have. And so until that time, I'm not willing to willy-nilly fund that school stabilization account at the cost of not buying the tax rate down more. And I'm not saying by what amounts, 500 or 100,000s, but I'm saying let's not lock it in today and make it more difficult, to make it flexible so that you can decide and move the proper amount from maybe with new information that we have by town meeting.
Well, I think that what we do, we're not going to know what the school is going to cost by town meeting. That's not going to happen. But we do know that it's in the range of 80.
No, we don't know anything.
We don't know anything. Okay, we don't know anything, but we can guess.
Here's what we do know. We know that whether it's going to be
No, I'm talking to him.
We know that it's going to be, depending on the configuration, whether it's a middle school and a high school or just a high school. We know the size of the school children. We know, the size of the school population. We know the price of per square foot for that sort of building. And so people, without loose tongues, but just with good judgment and research, have discovered we're at 100 million or so.
No, we don't.
You don't, I do. You can, with a small amount of research, anybody can. It isn't like it's a mystery number in order of magnitude.
So,
Just let me develop. And, so I'm saying that if you can know how much you want to put into the stabilization, and so you know it's going to be onerous to the tax rate at some day, then if you can know that, you've got to be having up here, even though you may not be willing to say it, some other numbers of what the cost is going to be and what the tax rate can be impacted, order of magnitude, not exactly. You can know that. Otherwise, you're asking the townspeople to forego getting their overtaxation back annually by a certain an amount that ought to be in the $300,000 to $400,000 range, and saying we're going to put it in a mystery account because we don't know how much of it we're going to need because we don't know what the school's going to cost. That doesn't fit together in a rational dialogue.
I wish we had this discussion a long time ago, because I understand a real good conversation with you guys and us, so then we can move on. I think, I don't think we're doing anything willy-nilly, and I hate to go back on the thing of saying we really don't know, but if the school wasn't here anyway, we would forget about that. We would still be paying the tax rate down. Even if we didn't have the school on the horizon, we would still be here wanting to pay the tax rate down, correct? Right?
Yeah.
We would still want to do that.
I mean, we're doing it with the school potentially here.
Yeah, so I
Well,
think,
if we didn't, we'd want to pay it down more.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we would still want that no matter if the school was here or not. So I think we should go along with that article and save for the school, because we really don't know. And then have a good discussion after this to have a good plan to set forth so we can tell the townspeople about it in the spring. And go with your recommendation in the spring. And I'm on the school building. By then, we will have some better ideas of numbers.
So, but you're making a value judgment by putting a $500,000 cap on one of those articles and $100,000 and some odd on the other article. I
see what you're driving at.
So
you
all
want
you
to
gotta
give people
do
you want to give people the option.
Yes, you raise the cap. I'm not asking you. I'm not saying.
I mean, I would have a problem doing 500 and 500. I don't want to.
Yeah, I would.
I don't want to bleed $1 million from the free cash.
It's obviously not no. It's what gets moved. Keep in mind what the word.
I understand, John, but I honestly believe that we will not, between now and town meeting, we will not have any substantive conversations to be able to have some good, intelligent information to give town meeting to be able to pinpoint that number, no matter what it is, from 0 up until $500,000. I don't see those in the horizon to be able to even tell people.
I'm not asking you to know that in my suggestion. David understands what I'm saying. So now I'm going to pull you my punchline. If you keep funding this stabilization fund, I don't know where you're going to stop. There's no guidelines to my knowledge. And there's a pretty fair chance I'm going to be deceased. Not as a joke, not morbidly, but I'm going to be deceased and that money would still be in there. I'm going to feel pretty bad when I'm laying in my casket. I'm not trying to be funny about this. The point is, in fiscal 16, we had $380,000 returned. We don't know this year what it's going to be, but I'll just guess, given the history of that, I want that money, more of that money back than a paltry 115. And at $100,000, you're talking about maybe $80 a year for the average household. Let's get real, guys. If you want to take money and start a stabilization fund, tell us what it's for, or you're a little early in the game. Wait till Springtown meeting when you may know more, like you said.
I think we need to wait and understand real numbers. I would be, I mean, we had 1.8 million certified in free cash last year. If the school is approved by the 3 communities, obviously we would have to have an override. That's an obvious conclusion. So I would be, from a tax rate perspective, I would be against like lowering and then spiking, which would be what would happen.
It's all tax rate money.
And you're talking about like a 2 or 3 year period too.
Okay, so let's get back. I understand what Dave also said. I understand everything what you're saying. But again, okay, so basically we're talking about Article 3. That number, we said 114,000. So you want us to go back and change that number up to $500,000, okay? So then what information do you guys have to give to us or give to the taxpayers so we can educate them on town meeting floor to find out what that number is? So, I mean, I'd like to know, to have that discussion.
You're asking me to predict the future. I'm not going to do that.
We don't have the certified numbers for this year either.
You understand my point? I
Yeah.
mean, so you want to go up to 500,000, fine. But tell me when we're going to have that discussion so we can tell the people what that number should be.
Well, make it 450,000. Make it 400. Get off the paltry 115. And that's a little bit of political talk, if I may, Glenn. There's information that's knowable as to how to put together so that you can have enough. I think that I can know the numbers by talking to Brad Dorr.
I'm not talking about that, John. I want to talk about why we're paying the tax rate down. Why are we paying the tax rate down by 100? Let's have that discussion. We have $114,000 there, okay? Why are we paying the tax rate down by $114,000?
Because it is a fraction of the excess revenue raised from the townspeople last year.
Is that the reason why we're doing it?
Is that
We realize.
It was essentially
baked in.
the same number we used last year, so we just
Less a cost, yes.
less the cost of the.
Well, we don't want to say what.
And
Yeah.
I understand.
and to say that you don't know certified free cash, we all know, honestly. But
Well, Andy said
but we can't say it out loud that we know how much surplus there is. And yes, you can say you don't know how much is going to be spent. I've been listening to that blather for 24 years, and I know how it pans out, and it always pans out the same way.
So,
It grows free cash. I'm giving up the microphone now, but I think that I can prove one-on-one. It's difficult to talk like this. Anybody wants to engage me in a rational, numbers-based conversation, I'm available.
I don't think we have the time right now, I don't mean tonight, but before town meeting, to fully flesh out this, and I would like to have a discussion to talk about our capital planning, our free cash, and the school stabilization costs. Get good numbers together, and then whatever we decide, then act on it in the spring. I mean, what's the rush to do it in 3 weeks from now?
Brad?
I don't know.
I just had a question.
Yeah.
Aside from just trying to keep the tax rates relatively stable, are there any other advantages that you 3 see for keeping more money in free cash as opposed to less?
Yeah, we're going to need it in relatively short order, probably. We haven't had the discussion, but to pay for a school.
Okay. But
And it is earning not huge, but it is invested, so it is making a little bit more money on.
When it goes
That's
into
a
stabilization.
minor
I mean,
issue.
It
Yeah.
makes no sense to me. I'm just going to throw out numbers to give back 5 and then to take 40 in 2 or 3 years.
This is a discussion, and I agree with Mr. McGrath that we've been having for 25 years. Okay, I think we have the climate on the FinCom and the climate on the Board of Selectmen, right, to make some real changes so we don't have a $1.8 million free cash. And one of you said that it was like 200 and something thousand dollars money that we spent out of free cash at Springtown meeting, just call it 300. And Andy told us at the meeting last time that estimates and money brought back is going to be around $500,000. So our free cash is going to be $1.8 million again. Okay, I mean, what around there when it's certified. I understand that, but it seems like we're just like we're not. We have the climate to really do something about that.
We need to have clear rationale for what we do.
Yeah, and I think
we don't.
we're rushing into it by doing this now, because I've asked again. I've asked, okay, so that number 3 to pay down the tax rate, okay? We gave you a reason why it's $114,000. It might not be a good reason, right? But it's a reason, because we wanted to reduce free cash, we wanted to reduce the tax rate, and that's the number that we picked. Was it a calculated number over whatever? No, it was
Well,
not.
it's the number that's
right?
it's the number that's baked into the rate, Glenn, because it's what we did last year. So
I understand. I understand.
But
So,
again, trying.
okay, but so my point being is, so you guys or whatever we want to do, you guys say, well, it should not to exceed $500,000. So I keep on saying, okay, great. What is the rationale that we're going to tell the people saying we want to put that tax rate down $297.03. What is that going to be? Why do we? But I think we have a theory that we should probably really have a good discussion about, and maybe even a bylaw that we automatically pay down the tax rate with any excess from the previous year's budget. But that's a big discussion, and let's have it. I think we can do it and do it for the spring.
This is real, though, and this is right now. What you're doing is to take free cash and put it in the stabilization fund, you're just relocating excess monies. I don't like that term, free cash. You're taking them from one definition in the accounting procedures of DOR, and you're putting them in another one that you've constructed in town for a special use. It's still taxpayers' money that's being set aside or not set aside in the case of pure free cash, but you put it in a stabilization fund. It is still a form, philosophically, a form of free cash, except that it's dedicated to one use. But it's still a discretionary spend down, just like regular free cash is. I say it belongs back in the taxpayers' pockets in a better ratio than you're proposing.
I might be wrong, but I think, Glenn made that motion to do it last time, but it was in reaction to the Finance Committee.
We don't have to put the $500,000.
We can not do it.
in there.
We did it at the,
I mean,
we
we're
can
going
vote.
to do it eventually. Why not start now and then come up with a good concrete plan to move forward?
We can pull that article. I mean,
It's safe to assume we don't all speak with one voice on this from the Finance Committee. My preference is to avoid giant spikes as we get closer to the construction or to the actual fiscal outlay for the school building project. So I'm content with this as is. My preference would be to avoid a giant or perhaps even a series of tax relief efforts in the short term, only to go with a massive override 5 years from now.
or 3 years or 4
Or
years.
3.
And I think also we talked about in that respect was, hey, we want to come to the table and talk about it too, I think. Mr. Chairman?
I just wanted to say I am more in line with Nick's thinking on this one, and I would like to, I really like the idea of sitting down and looking at all these pieces together, because I think you can't really look at them separately. I also would feel a little bit concerned if I were just not knowing all the background of this at town meeting, and it looked like we were going to spend $500,000 and $500,000 on, I'm not quite sure, and boy, we haven't spent this money before, and I mean, I just think we don't have the time to articulate the explanations, and it could be very confusing to people.
All right, there's too many loose terms thrown around. Excuse me, Nick, and I didn't vote for it because I left early that night. But you talk about spikes. The tax rate, this is assessor's office information, the tax rate in 2015 was $15.69. In 2016, it was $14.63, $1 less per thousand. If you do the numbers, you'll find out that $1 less per thousand is $1 million. $1 million is where we start to need to come up with for the payment on the first year. It's $1 million something, give or take, whatever the size of the loan. Of the loan, we don't know what it's going to be. In the school, we don't size. The order of magnitude, anybody that can do arithmetic, has done a little bit of personal finance, can understand and see that there's a lot of talk that's not based on calculated numbers and numbers. I've gone to the assessor's office this week. I've been to see Andy a couple times, not to sell anybody anything, but to gather facts. The number of major units in town paying the bulk of the property taxes is 1,870 units. The median, they say median, and I've checked multiple sources for documented value of the median or average house. I've even run into people that don't know the difference in those two numbers. And what I find out and do a little simple arithmetic on what millage rates changes give you another $100,000. And they're not what you call spikes, because there's plenty of time. And we're down into the order of magnitude of a 6 or 7% change in a person's, this is all current year stuff, I cannot predict the future. It's in the 6 to 7% change in your tax bill to pull out $1 million out of your pocket. That's not a spike, folks.
Yeah, I think to follow up on Nick's point, one of the things that the Finance Committee, and I don't want to speak for the other members here, but the starting point for the discussion was centered around the overall level of free cash, and that there was again, not speaking for my fellow members, but there was strong agreement that overall level was high relative to the overall budget, and that ultimately having, in my opinion, funds that are allocated to a specific knowable bill upcoming, being the school, as opposed to sitting in a fund that is wide open for anything, is the former is preferable. So, you know, having the $500,000 allocated towards that fund as opposed to having it sit in free cash, it is a preferable. It's directional. Yes, we don't know how much the overall bill is going to be. We don't know the net effect on the tax rate. What we do know is that it's going to be a big bill. What we do know is if the $500,000 is assigned to that fund in one form or other, it will be allocated towards that specific purpose. And I think that was going back to the beginning point of the Finance Committee. What we were trying to do, in one sense, was direct a little effort and focus on that free cash.
Can I make a suggestion? Can we set a date and get the Capital Improvements Committee, us, Finance Committee, and have this discussion so that we start moving a plan forward?
Can that be an executive session? It can't be, right?
No.
No, why would?
No, we don't need to do that.
About the school prices and stuff like that.
We don't have to know the cost
No.
of the school.
We don't want numbers getting
we
out
don't have-
there.
we don't have to know
negotiate contracts with people.
Glenn, we don't have to know numbers.
No.
So
Okay, but let's
can we?
I want to move on from.
let's deal with this first.
Me too. Well, let's put a date out there. Let's get that planned.
Okay, what?
I don't know. I don't know when people are available. I mean, we're meeting October 16th. We're meeting October 30th. Either of those.
I would have it on an off day that we're meeting, so it's not rushed. It's not whatever we have a
Well,
real.
then you're looking at the town meetings on an off day, so then you're looking at like November 6th.
Your schedule already has, I think it's November 13th for a meeting
Priorities-
among us.
Priorities with you, yes, for
I don't-
the budget planning.
I don't know if that would be a good time, but you've already set that.
I mean, we should, I think, I don't know, I'd like to have this, this is like a big issue that's gonna take a little bit of discussion, so I'd like to have this resolved before we start planning our budget. Or at least begin to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't see resolution, but
Whatever.
I still don't think so.
Okay.
We're on to Article 6, I think.
so, to Article 5,
It was already voted on by us, 300.
no, we didn't vote, it was a discussion, so.
And if I could
All-
just, sorry, if I could just jump in, I don't know if I read our vote for Article 5, but I just went back through the minutes, and we did not vote because it didn't exist as an article after we met with you last week. So
Okay, so as far as the Board of Selectmen, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So what's your vote?
on Article 5, we haven't voted yet.
Well, I mean, you wanna go, we just voted it, you wanna vote it?
We're scheduled meeting.
You're in a meeting.
No, this is the 500,000.
Just before we vote, I just want to have a clarification point. Just I want a clarification point. Were you concerned that if we put Article 5 before the town, they might just be nervous at the large number and be inclined to vote it down? Were you wondering if it'd be best staying where it is? I just wanted some clarification.
No, my clarification was 2 500,000 up tos with not a clear idea of the details underlying that, because that collectively is a lot of money
$1 million.
all of a sudden that we aren't used to doing at fall meeting. And I just thought it might raise a ton of questions at fall meeting if it were together presented like this. I think if it were presented as it is in the proposed special town meeting warrant, I think that would be not likely to create a lot of questions. So that was my feeling.
Thank you. Second.
Six.
We were 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
May I ask who was opposed?
Or what the reason was.
Yeah, what the reason is? I always like to know that. Microphone?
I would be asking my chairman if I can put an opposition rationale in the finance committee booklet. And until I have got my thoughts in order, because I seem to be incomprehensible to most people, so my routine just put through comprehension. So I have support staff here.
This is the library article.
This is the library article. This is the library revolving.
I thought I would just ask why I voted against it.
You
The
said
library
Mike,
one.
You said Mike Dutate.
6.
Ask me why I just voted against that last article.
No, the next
the
one, John.
library. The library one.
Number 6, not number 5. Okay.
Completely gone.
Number 6.
Is the library article.
Okay.
I don't know. Somebody voted against the library
Yeah,
article.
so that was a recusal. Elisa's husband.
We were not just voting.
501. Sorry, that was.
We're on the next
We're
one.
on the next one.
Yeah.
And your chairman said it was 5-1 for the next one, so we asked who voted for the, voted for it. Yeah. So this was the
Yeah, that was an
library-
abstention.
To set up the
It's not
library
a negative,
revolving
it's
fund.
just a abstain.
So it's an abstention?
It was an abstention, yeah.
Okay.
5-0.
Make a motion to, in favor to approve?
Second.
All in favor of Article 6?
Aye.
300 for Article 6. Article 7, to see if the town will amend the zoning bylaw groundwater protection overlay district by replacing the current map with a new map entitled West Newbury Proposed Amendments to the Groundwater Overlay District Map.
Mr. Chairman, did I make a comment?
Yes.
So I think there was a question last time, and rightfully so, And I don't know if it was about the adjacent property owners for the Dole Place site. And I just want to let you know that and I'm going to read this, the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection approved both well sites, so the Bedrock well at 999 Main Street and 31 Dole Place. They stipulated that the groundwater protection overlay district map be modified to incorporate both the Zone 1 and Zone 2 on both of those proposed sources. So it's from the DEP.
One other point I'd make with regard to the Zone 3 is that if you look at the groundwater protection bylaw, it specifically says that essentially the ground doesn't prohibit or regulate any activities in Zone 3. So basically, Zone 3 is a designation for DEP, but it has no effect on any places in there. And that's part of the bylaw.
In Zone 2 for normal recreation, residential use shouldn't affect.
No, there would be no, actually, there's nothing that's prohibited in Zone 2 that isn't already prohibited
In a
by-
residential zone.
within the residential zone, with the possible exception of making sure of proper storage of animal waste. Because obviously agriculture would be approved in that Zone 2, but you'd although animal waste would not be governed by the zoning, it is currently governed by Board of Health regulation.
This is a silly question. You may or may not
Mike.
know the answer to this. Thank you. There are no existing agricultural operations within the radius of either of those zones at this point?
Certainly not commercial.
I looked at it, not that I could think of, no.
No.
Okay. I don't know, that's why I was
Yeah.
asking.
No.
Okay,
Not
thank
to
you.
the best of our knowledge. You guys want to vote on that?
Did you vote?
We haven't voted. We can vote now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
I move to approve Article 7.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
E?
To see if the town will amend the zoning bylaw, section 4.e, to add a temporary moratorium on the use of land or structures for the operation of any marijuana establishments as defined in General Law, Chapter 94G, Section 1. This moratorium will be in effect through December 31st, 2018.
We were 4 in favor, 1 opposed.
Can I ask the opposition, please?
I just thought that the majority of the town voted to legalize it, so it just seemed strange to put a moratorium on it.
Well, there's two different related questions. One is if it's legal or not legal. What this specifically is
For
for an
commercial
establishment to
purposes.
sell it. So they're two separate but related questions.
Right.
And this gives us just,
I agree with the decision of the board as a whole. I think it's a smart
it gives us time.
idea. Yeah.
Gives us time to have a discussion and be able to, if it's gonna happen, to hopefully be able to do some stuff to do it right rather than.
It would actually have to come down to an actual vote at the ballot by the town.
Correct.
Okay. But yeah, I think it seems very reasonable to wait a year. I just thought it just seemed. I guess
I get your point.
it was
Yeah,
just kind
yeah.
of just seemed like it was going kind of against the will of the town. So I
Yeah.
thought it wasn't.
I would agree, I would actually, yeah. But we're not voting no, we're just holding it so then we can.
But like anything else, I think it's nice to see how other towns respond and the effects it has elsewhere, and then we can decide what we want to do with it here. So.
I just point out that many towns have adopted the moratorium, and one of the reasons is that the number one is the law has been changed by the legislature from that which was voted in, by the voters. So that one doesn't exist anymore. It's now a new law that was just passed in August, and there are regulations and procedures that have to be established by the state, and this gives us an opportunity to at least know what those regulations and requirements are before we make decisions as to what, if any, prohibitions or regulations we would want to put on such a facility in the town.
They just started the mission last, 2 weeks ago. They finally put a commission together and they have a chairperson.
And they have to get regulations.
And they're gonna have, now the regulation's gonna start. So we wanted to put, we don't even know what the regulations are or even have a good understanding. So we wanna get those before we would even discuss this.
I think last I checked, over 100 towns in Massachusetts have put moratoriums or outright bans. So
But your point's a good point.
Your point is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, so that's good that when we have a future discussion, that should be a point that's brought up.
I move to approve Article 8.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
So,
Okay, so we have on our schedule for November 13th to have a joint meeting to discuss the priorities for budgeting for for FY19. Can we come up with a mutually agreeable time? I think to talk about capital planning in a sort of a separate discussion. I think it is kind of a separate issue. So let's see if we can look at our calendar.
I don't think they wanna make a discussion about capital planning per se. I think they wanna kinda have a total discussion about.
Well, free cash, that's what I mean. But as opposed to discussing whether we want to give the police department a 5%, that kind of stuff, yeah.
It's more of a big picture.
Yeah.
We should have that big picture discussion before we start talking about budgeting for the next
That's what
year
he said.
because.
That's what we're trying to do.
You said that.
So let's do it.
When do you want to do it? I mean, can we make it part of a meeting and just hold off a lot of other stuff? Or, I mean, we could come in a separate night, but.
John?
Regarding having a joint meeting, you're speaking of the Selectmen, the Finance Committee, and the CIC, is that what I'm getting?
Yes.
I don't know how many people are on the CIC, but that maybe you'd like to think through that many people in a room trying to do a CIC and it drips into free cash and free cash brings you to school nowadays. I wonder if that will be able to be productive or whether you'd like to break them into two pieces. I think the free cash is one and CIC is another. Certainly they're interconnected, but the CIC is not in a place to be making policy on fiscal arrangements in the town as much as these two boards.
That's true.
Suggestion of
So,
administrative suggestion.
that's true. So maybe it should be Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, but talking about what the chairman just said, capital planning, free cash, school, have the whole discussion, but between just these two boards.
Well, the discussion about the capital improvements between us is everybody's just gonna say, we need a better schedule, we need to have it better right, and we'd like to have it in front of us. And
Well, I
then,
think what John's saying though is we need
I
to
understand.
give them direction, set the policy, which is what we're talking about. So I would
okay,
agree.
well, let's do it.
Is the CIC in a condition to have a meeting with? Is it meeting regularly and?
That's a great
We did get a reasonable capital plan at the end last year, but it's always a work in progress, and it's not great, but I would say we'll try and have a meeting with try and get them to have just go over that again and get see if any of the numbers need tweaking, yeah, and then I think John's point is good, so maybe we don't want to have too many people. Yeah.
I would agree with John.
So, okay, but let's figure out a day here.
Well, we can't on we cannot on October 9th because it's a holiday. We have a regular meeting on the 16th. We have a special town meeting on the 23rd. We have a regular meeting on the 30th. So why don't we just take one of the two regular meetings and devote an hour or whatever it takes to it?
Okay.
The week before a special town meeting tends to be light. So maybe they're done, we're light, usually.
The 16th then, you're saying?
Of October.
Does that work for you, October 16th? You're done with your
At
bucket list?
7 o'clock. I would block off 7 to 8,
At least.
at least, for that discussion.
Okay.
And that discussion is going to be about what?
Capital planning, free cash, and this-
Capital planning, free cash,
and
that's
the-
it.
And the school without numbers, but strategically. We don't know the numbers.
The school without numbers means what? How we're going to pay that?
Strategically.
Strategically. I'm just trying to, so we all.
And the intent is just these two boards.
Say that
Yes.
again?
Yeah.
The intent is just us, not CIC.
Yeah.
That'll be a closer to budget season meeting.
I like the sound of school without numbers. It's very, it sounds like a
As long
movie.
as you don't say a school without books.
That or a Sting song.
Did I miss a point here? What happened to the November meeting?
We're still having that.
We're still having
That's
that.
a budgeting meeting.
The meeting that we're going to have on the 16th, not that I'm trying to get out of a meeting, but is that really necessary to have that before the town meeting?
It's not necessary to have it
Before
the town meeting. We're looking for
convenience.
a convenience that we're gonna be slow, and maybe you guys are gonna be slow, and be able to dedicate an hour to talk about free cash before we start meeting for the budgeting at November 13th.
Because you're all done with your booklet by then.
Yeah, the booklet's done, and, you know,
The booklet's finished and
Fully
distributed.
recovered? Yeah.
Is it possible that,
you have 8
I,
articles,
I,
come on.
I don't know, is it possible that the DOR will have
Certified our free cash?
certified by then?
Possibly, yeah. Quite possibly.
Don't know, but
Borderline.
maybe.
Yes, would that be helpful if that was? I feel like that definitely make the discussion a little easier if we
Yeah.
knew
You
the
know what?
numbers.
Yes, it would, but not really, because what I'd like to have at the meeting, it would be to have what the last 5 years are, I mean, you know what I mean? It is what it's gonna be. We have to come up with a concept. We come up with a concept, and then you just plug the numbers in every single year. It doesn't matter what the numbers are, as long as we come up with that concept and we stick with it. Because those numbers will change every year, so rather than talking about numbers, we need to talk about concepts. Because we understand, I guess, what the end game is. You know what I mean? I'd like to see, you know, that our free cash stay around $1 million at this point. You know what I mean? Not 1.8. So if you know what your end game,
Or less. Or less.
or less, but you know, it's, you know, I don't want to go back on Lisa's thing. I don't want sticker shock for our people too. We have to take baby steps, because remember, you're going to be sitting in a room with town meeting members that one time voted against having their taxes decreased because they were convinced to put it into free cash and keep it for a rainy day. So, you know, there's a lot of people still there,
Are you
right?
talking about the underride when you say that?
Yeah. But
Well,
that-
underride is levy limits, not necessarily tax. That's
okay, they voted against it,
the underride.
the underwrite,
That's,
the Wheelabrator money that came back. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's still a lot of people think, well, what happens if we need something? What happens if we need something? We have to educate them and give them an understanding and bring it down with baby steps, I think, or just do it in one chunk. Who knows?
there was a question asked last week, Elisa, you were asking about appendices. So I think that we're good with just the text of the marijuana bylaw and also the groundwater protection map. It's nothing else that we know, that we would want, right?
Right, Mike?
Do we want the bylaw that discusses what a zone 2 is? I mean, it's a little bit lengthy, but it does show that nothing really is affected.
That's what, I wouldn't. Are you talking about the whole thing or just an excerpt?
Just an excerpt.
Oh, okay.
No. Just have some available like we do at the back, you know, some are available in the back.
Oh, you know what we
table.
could do? We could do like we did last, I mean, no one looks at it, because John had to walk it around the meeting, but we could print a map in color, large, that,
We're gonna get a couple of bigger ones, yeah.
I'll do that.
It's more complicated.
On the website, the larger map.
And that's what I was going to say. I think ours will be black and white, and I like the idea of some aid in the room, but on the website, which hopefully people will look at, and I know later on
That'll be in
it'll
color.
be in color. So.
And the idea was to have this one large scale map, say, and then have another number of these around so that people can pick it up and look at it. This size
You can see people's lot lines and streets on that size quite well.
I have a suggestion that you do an 8.5 by 11 extraction of the two relevant zones on that low mountain base 8.5 by 11. You don't need a map of the whole town. And you do your copies well or it doesn't. But at least the neighbors will see their lot lines in relation to some, however those colors come out, if you just do two regular feet.
Okay.
That's not a bad idea.
That's a good idea, John.
That's a good idea, John.
Okay.
You started off pretty slow tonight, but you're
Warm it up.
you're warming up. So how many of these booklets are you going to print? And have we started focusing more to have them on our website so you don't have to print so much?
They've always been on the website.
I know, but I mean focus, the word focus. That we try to start telling people that we love the earth and we don't want to cut down pretty trees, so we want to try to focus them on our website rather than you guys printed up a billion.
But people like to bring it to the meeting.
Well, they like to have it, and we do distribute it before. John is a huge help with this, to various points in town, the post office, the market, the places around town. We do put it on the website. We have been, I know you did last time, announcing on the West Newbury News Facebook page that it's there and with a link. But anything more, I know Mary may have put it on the first page of the website that it's available. And of course we keep them then in archived form too. So hopefully that's working.
Glenn, you have to have no paper copy then now. I'm going to hold you to it.
I'd like to add some question. So at this upcoming town meeting, take a moment and look over the audience and see how many people are using that. They're pen, they're writing it, they're flipping back and forth, and they're talking to their neighbors. That's a very useful tool for people to stay in touch. Like I got out of place tonight from what article we're on because I'm trying to find it on my mini pad and I can't hear. So
It's a political.
reason to have it.
It's a political tool for me, to get the people confused and have them vote for things they don't want to vote for, but I like.
So when you start using a big laptop, you don't need it, then we'll cross the line.
Well, that ain't gonna happen. Okay, thank you.
Is that it? We set?
Yep.
Make a motion to
I move
adjourn? No. We already voted on the warrant.
We did that already.
We did that first thing before
I
they came.
move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are you,